All right. Hey, people. How are we all doing? It's been a while since I've done a live stream like this. Let me turn the volume down a little bit. Yeah, that's probably way better. At least you can understand me now. Yeah, as I was saying, it's been a while since we've done a live stream like this, so bear with me. And like last time, live stream was also on on Twitch, so doing some jumping around, you know, keeping it fresh. Vlad, hi, have a nice stream. Thank you so much. And then Ben's popping in as well, working and steaming. Steaming. I'm gonna assume that you meant streaming there, Ben. Thanks for being here as well, buddy. Yeah, so it's gonna be a fairly well, not short one, probably around an hour. And this is gonna be our monthly portfolio review. So I think we had 3 people sign up. I want to be conservative and keep it to 2 so that we can really go into like all the details and like really explain like everything that I want to explain. But we'll see how it goes. Hey Guillaume! Hello Leet! How are you all doing? You doing well? I thought so, Ben. Alright. Let's see. Let's test some stuff out. It's been a while since I did stuff in Epic Pen, so... Nice. Seems to be all good. Oh, Guillaume is trying to come up with some challenge stuff ideas. Yeah, because that's right. We currently got like a challenge running, and we got like 4 teams currently coming up with ideas. I was in one group yesterday, just seeing how it goes, you know. And it was interesting to see them coming up with ideas. So I'm curious to what you're gonna come up with, Guillaume. I'm curious to see. I need to make sure that I keep my new, like, overlay in mind as well, as I do my little overpaints. All right, let's dive into it. First portfolio review for this month is submitted by Plex on our Discord server. Real name Maksym Skrypka. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I hope it was all right. Yeah, so usually I always try to keep like a certain structure in mind when it comes to portfolio reviews. The first thing I'll look at is just like the first impressions and what is actually the stuff that you're saying with your portfolio, right? Like your little title, the first images, and so forth. So I think you go to your portfolio. It actually shows up like this, right? So let's start here. So first thing I'd like to start out with is always this little title that you self-assign. 3D artist, if you're trying to get a job in the industry, it is super generic, you know? It might be better to go with something a bit more specialized. Especially once you're trying to get in. Like, I feel that a lot of companies, especially the bigger ones, they still want to see that you sort of have like a focus point, you know? So that can be environments, characters. It doesn't have to be like super focused. Like, it doesn't have to go all the way down to foliage, for example. But at least say that you're like a 3D environment artist, for example. So 3D environment artist. Or a 3D prop artist. Or whatever you want to specialize in, right? Make sure that you emphasize like your focus. Because 3D artist, that can literally mean anything. It's a small thing, but it's good. I always kind of treat it as like an indication of how well you know your portfolio and your position that you want to move into. That's how I kind of look at it. Because obviously the work is going to do most of the talking by itself, right? It's not necessarily that one title that's going to break like you getting a potential job in the industry. Most people will focus on the actual work here. Yeah, cool. So first impression, apart from the little overview here, let's have a look at some of the albums that you posted up here. So we got all, that's like an automatically generated one. We got Sci-Fi Hard Surface, and then we got Stylized. But I can already tell that the Stylized is like one prop and 2 characters. right? And then in the sci-fi hard surface one, you have one environment and then two weapons slash props, I would say. Right, so that's kind of what I meant with the picking your specialization just a little bit. Because you, at this point, like it kind of seems like you're a little bit all over the place, doing weapons, doing props, doing environments, doing characters, doing stylized, doing sci-fi, realistic. So that would be my first thing. Like, pick a focal point. Like, what do you actually want to do in the industry? And an important thing to note with that is that you can still change, right? Just make sure that it is something that at this current moment is something that you really love to do and that you could see yourself doing for at least a couple of years full time, because that's what the company is looking for too, right? They want to hire someone who is really passionate about what they do, and through that passion they're gonna turn that into like amazing X, like be it environments or be it weapons or be it characters, whatever, right? Yeah, but I'm curious to dive into this. Should we do that already? I'm thinking if we missed something here. I don't think so, right? I'm curious to dive into the more specific stuff here. Oh yeah. Thanks so much for asking a question in the chat. Feel free to do so during the stream. I'll be looking at the chat occasionally, so if you have any questions that come up, feel free to just throw them in the chat. So, on the topic of the title, someone in the chat is asking, is it okay to say 3D environment artist when I specialize on its texturing? If you're really specialized on texturing, then just call yourself a material artist. Because if you're only going to be focused on the texturing of weapons specifically, that is again too specific. If I were to hire like a weapons artist, I would expect them to also do like at least part of the texturing or be knowledgeable about it too. That would be my answer to that. It's a good question though. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's dive into it. Should we just... Let's open all. Let's have a look. Okay, so here we see all. I would honestly... Let's move back for for just a minute, right? If you only have what are we looking at? Like 6 images here or 6 projects? Don't add this extra step in between. Don't have your portfolio come up with albums first and then have like all your things displayed in there. Just show all. The reason why I say this is because people looking at portfolio are going to be very quick, you know? You want to remove all the potential friction from someone looking at your portfolio and then being impressed by your work and then doing the next step, right? So try to remove that friction as much as possible. So in this case, your portfolio fits on one screen, right? That's perfect. Like, this is what I want to see as an introduction, because then it's like your work is directly in front of me as soon as I open up your page. And that's the important stuff. All right, let's have a look here, Maksym. What are you throwing at us? Erica and Ali here. Hey! How you guys doing? Let's have a look. The H3D. Caught one of these streams again. Awesome. Need to see my work in the thumbnail. After I posted that with the feedback from you and the community, I got my first job in the industry. I want to say thanks. Oh, that's awesome. That's great to hear. It's been ages since I did a stream, so you're not missing out on anything. This is the first that I've done in a while. I can't even recall the last stream that I did. So good. Missing working with you. I miss working with you too. That's awesome. Who knows? Maybe at some point, you know? I think you had a lead environment artist position open, no? We were actually looking at the company website yesterday. I can't remember for what. Like we kind of landed on it. Your point about reducing friction is perfect. I've been doing hiring recently, and all those extra steps makes it that much more annoying. Yeah, exactly. And I've been involved with hiring myself as well, right? And it's stuff like long videos, these extra little clicks that you have to do. Like, it is so annoying if you're really going through like a bunch of portfolios like throughout the day. Yeah, I'm sure that we're gonna encounter like more of them in the future as well. Let's have a look here, Maksym. I think this is the one that I saw you doing as you came in. Everyone has to go through a sci-fi hallway, you know, like a sci-fi corridor. What I like about yours is that you went with like an open roof so that you can actually see the planet. That's like a really awesome addition to the scene. Weighted normals workflow. So these are... Okay, let's have a look. Plus decals. High poly of the decals. It will be interesting to see the parallax occlusion mapping decals because... Let's have a look. Oh, these are actually modeled in. Okay. That's interesting. If you're doing this workflow, Maksym, try to replicate the parallax occlusion mapping on the decals as well. That would be my first thing to say. Like, I know it's a detail, but like if you're trying to recreate a workflow, that is super useful. So stuff like these insets, they would actually be POM decals. And this is like parallax occlusion mapping. So it will basically fake depth based on the height map that you give it. So that would be like a great thing to try, Maksym. Other than that, I like the style, you know? Like I like the... What do you say it? Like the dispersion of details. Like you have like areas of rest and then you have high density details, which makes it like really interesting to look at. And then also... Ah, it's cool. I can see where you kind of grab the references from Doom, right? Because Doom is obviously like the orange and like red planet, like the orange influences coming in like at the bottom as well. Really nice. One of the main things that I would say here is the fault of most sci-fi hallways, and this is 100% including mine. I think I removed mine from my portfolio like ages ago. But it's like we make them straight. You know, because we have this idea of like, I'm going to make it modular. So the easiest way to make something modular is to make it just straight and just duplicate the module, right? And then maybe add a variation in here and there. So for example, you have this little module sticking out here. That's great, but it doesn't offer enough to change like the overall shape of the space itself to make it feel like it's something different compared to all the other modules. So that would be my main criticism of this. Like, try to make a sci-fi hallway that is really interesting. And I know I'm massively overgeneralizing here. It's way harder than it actually is, you know? Like, they spend countless hours on Star Citizen. Let's have a quick glance, right? How they do stuff. Let's see if we can find like a good one. I mean, it's a concept. I don't think... What a mining colony location in Star Citizen. Okay, so this is actually from the game itself. But you can see that it's still modules, right? But they try to offer something different that really dramatically like changes the shape of the corridor that you're walking with it. And usually this is driven by the functionality of the building, right? So it would be really cool to see something like that if you ever want to do something modular sci-fi-ish again. Let's have a look at the chat as well. Guillaume writing in the wrong window. BE challenge. Vlad is asking if I have a couple hold on, if I have a couple focus and find similar positions, texture artist and environment artist, this style is good. Lead texture artist and environment artist. Okay, let me try to decipher that real quick. Right, so I think you're asking if you should focus on either environment artist or texture artist, right? Sorry if I misunderstood that, Vlad. Ali is also saying, I tend to dislike personal website. ArtStation makes everything slick and easy instead of having to navigate an entirely new website. Yep. Honestly, the only reason why I still have a personal website is so that if I want to send it to someone, you know, someone that I kind of want to impress, not necessarily a recruiter, I can just send it to them, you know, and it looks a bit more professional and more unique. But if I was to go and apply to like a studio again, I would not even bother sending my personal website. Like, just send them like the one that is like the most frictionless and just the easiest one to approach. Vlad is saying, yeah, okay. Let's have a look, Vlad. Texture artist, this style is good. Lead texture artist. They're both very different. So a texture artist, from the AAA point of view, usually focuses just purely on the textures, right? And then the environment artist is the one that either builds the level, like they put the level together, and not even necessarily building the assets, but just building the level themselves and then occasionally making assets. This is my experience with it, right? If we look at like the AAA industry in general, I would say that an environment artist is so broad that it's kind of hard, and it's dependent on the studio that you apply for. For example, when I worked at Ubisoft Berlin, I was an environment artist, right? But in their case, like, an environment artist was more like a level artist. So I was more about putting stuff into the world, telling stories with it, and then building environments with already made assets in that case. So technically, if I were to self-assign like a role retroactively to what I was doing, I would probably call myself like a level artist in that case. But the only reason why they called me an environment/prop artist is because I was also in charge of occasionally making a prop and occasionally like I don't know, making a structure or helping to build a structure, you know, like it was very, very diverse, very varied the way that we're doing it. A texture artist can be part environment artist. It depends on the studio, Vlad. That's a good question. But in my perception, if you're focusing on textures, that's all you should focus on. Like an environment artist is usually very different in their responsibilities. Like an environment artist regularly doesn't really make the textures unless they're for like fully unique props, you know. Let's jump into this thing again before we get too much sidetracked. Keep asking the questions though. I'll keep going through the chat once I have a bit of time. I just want to make sure that we get through Maksym's awesome portfolio as well. Oh, and Admiral Magbar is also throwing in some really good explanations in there. And also, hi Sebastian. All right, cool. Let's have a look at some other pieces, Maksym. So we got the one environment done. Let's have a look at this sci-fi medical injector. Okay. Okay. It took me a while to get this animation. I wasn't really sure what this was doing down here. I like it though. Like there is something to it. I think it just needs to be conveyed in a better way, I think. But I like what you're trying to do with this, Maksym. Like it's very unique, right? Like this animation. So I think the main issue that I have with this is that I don't directly understand what this section is. Like it takes a bit of time before I realize that that is actually like muscle tissue and like skin or whatever, right? So maybe if you can portray it in like a better way, maybe just an arm or something like that. You could possibly grab what are they called again? Like a meta-human? Maybe they have some really detailed arms that you can use for the presentation. Could be cool. Because yeah, I'm not sure what this is at a glance, right? It's all about reducing friction again. The pen itself looks really interesting though. Got a little display on there. Okay, we're seeing some details. Like the fingerprint on here. That's pretty cool. Oh, okay, so let me see if I understand this right. Oh yeah, that's without the ampule. Yeah, so you can reload it. That's cool. And that's the trigger of it. That's awesome. I like the logic behind it. And it's nicely designed as well. Like, the main thing that I'm wondering is... the lighting is not really showing off, like, all the interesting details here. Where... This one is quite good, actually. This one that we're currently looking at. Because you can kind of see, like, the fingerprints on here. You can kind of see, like, the little grunge on it. But I almost want to see more of it, you know? Like... dust gathering in like some of the crevices. I guess it is meant to be like a medical tool, so you can't have too much on it. Oh, you know what? Like material variation. That could be an interesting one for this. So, because right now, if you look at this shot, it almost feels like it's one, like, fully what is it, like fully composed or like fully put together, almost a weapon, almost, you know. Whereas if you put like slight material variation between what is it, between the ampule here and then the section below it, you just vary them up ever so slightly, it's gonna help the function of the actual object. Material variation. It's a good one. And then also, even though I like it here, what you can also do, or what you not necessarily do, but like need to think about, is how a person will interact with this, right? And you even mention it yourself in the post below, where you say that this is the trigger, right? So you wouldn't necessarily have like fingerprints on the trigger. It would almost be like full, like something that like indicates that it's come in contact with skin, right? So like it's probably like a bit more shinier because like all the oils on your skin, you know, like it has like a little imprint of like being touched by skin, which honestly, looking at it, it might already be happening. There's like a slight variation between this section and then this section. So maybe push it up a little bit more, right? And try to think about like what you could add on there. Yeah, I like this though. Like this is a very unique kind of concept. Very design heavy. I like that you're showing off that you got some design skills as well. Sebastian is saying somewhere would be nice, as it seems different. As it seems there are different types of injections. Oh yeah, yeah, that's a great point as well. So sort of like as you're slotting in the ampule, that you can see like some scratches because like it's reusable, right? So where would those be? I guess maybe on the ampule itself you would have them. But yeah, some more wear and tear would be interesting. You know, if it's reusable, then you're kind of getting rid of like the whole clean medical layer because you're inputting like a clean infuse. Oh, hold on. It's meant to be used by non-medical units, so you can definitely up like the wear and tear on this. If it's used in like a military capacity or something like that, great excuse to just add more stuff to it. Great though. I like that. Now onto the presentation of this, right? This is not an interesting thumbnail. I think this is the thumbnail that really shoots the work itself in the foot. You have so many like nice details in there, like on the ampule, on like the injector itself, that this is almost like the most boring part that you picked out. So I would probably pick like an interesting part of the design. Let me quickly have a check which I one would pick. I like the contrast at the top, but I'm kind of feeling that the lighting is also not serving it really well. So, I'm trying to think what we can do with that. Because I do want to see like all the nice details and like all the nice roughness variations on top of it. And then put that into the thumbnail to really make it pop, you know? So that you're like, oh shit, this is like a cool thing. I need to click on this. But for that, you need to tweak the lighting a little bit to show off like the big surfaces as well. Because you got the rim light, right? So, wow, that's a big boy. So, you got the rim right, and then you got like the little like underneath lighting, right? That's really good. But like probably like a lot of the interesting variation is gonna come from like a lot of these areas. Or you could maybe even go a little bit over the top with the thumbnail itself and make it almost look like it's still in the wrapper, or it's presented as like the new military injection tool, right? Like as the front of a magazine or something like that. Like try to go like a little bit above and beyond with it. That'll be super interesting to see. And then put that in the thumbnail. Because yeah, this thumbnail, the prop itself is great, but the thumbnail and the lighting is really not doing it justice to the fullest. That's actually a great question as well in the chat. Which one is better to use for prop presentation? Plain color background or fancy gradient blurred HDRI kind of thing? The one that works the best with the story that you're trying to tell for the prop. The one that is best for the fantasy that you're trying to sell, right? Which means it doesn't really matter which one you pick necessarily, as long as it fits with like the kind of vibe that you're going for. Both of them can work, you know? So I'll give you an example, right? So if we're thinking about like a really clean, like medical tool, you would probably want like a plain color background and sort of like a what are they called again? Like a photography set where you can do like object photography with like a really nice clean background, right? So that it feeds on the design, and it emphasizes the design and like the cleanliness of it. But you can also do something where, for example, for this gun, this sci-fi laser cutter, I would probably put that on like a grungy metal floor panel, so that you could kind of imagine it being like a part of like either like a welder's, or like a welder's tool belt, or like workbench, or that you can see it in the environment, right? But yeah, good point. You can't make it like too distracting as well, because then again you're introducing friction to, I just want to see this cool prop, and then I get distracted by like all the other cool stuff that's happening around it. So let me see if I can quickly bring one up. Ba-da-ba-bam. Because the presentation usually doesn't need to be much, right? You can do something with something. You can do a lot with something relatively simple. So let me bring up this one from my good buddy Will. This is not much for presentation, right? He had this texture laying around, and I think he made this texture like really quickly, but just to sell the idea that it was like it was set up to be displayed, right? Like it adds so much to just like a basic presentation. That being said, he still has those shots as well, so that you can purely focus on like the artistry and like the craft that went into the gun as well. But I think they kind of both work hand in hand, where this is more like a story, like it has a little bit of a background, and then you show off the prop in like all its glory, right? And look at that. Like this is the thing that I'm talking about as well with your portfolio, Maksym, is not that heavy, right? Like don't go overboard like this. For your prop, it's probably nicer to go subtle, but that's the sort of material definition that I want to see on your prop as well. Just as a quick indication. And that can probably apply to this one as well, right? Even though it's actually a bit better presented here because you actually see some of the nice variation. Oh yeah, Ali. On the same wavelengths here. Just have like one that shows it off in the world, and then a couple of shots like I was just showing with Will. Yeah, I think so, right? Because I think that gives the best of both worlds, and it's not that much of extra work, where you can tell a story with just like a simple background texture or something, and then still have like the clean ones where you can really see the attention to detail in the textures. All right. This is cool. I honestly like the little animations that you do, Maksym. These are cool. I like this. These tubes make it so much more organic than the rest of the hard surface shapes. I like it. Make concept. So I think this is one that you made yourself then, right? So this is actually looking pretty sweet, man. I like it. Oh, that's cool. So the display rotates based on how you hold it. That's awesome. I like the thought and the functionality of this gun. I like that. That's cool. Try to do something more. If you're showing topology, try to do something more with it. Don't just like take a screenshot from Blender and have it on here like raw. At least try to put in, like, get rid of the grid lines, get rid of the 3D point, and have these two in the same aspect ratio as you have like all the other guns, right? Just to have that continuity going. And I gotta be honest, I'm not sure about this one. I would maybe not even include this one, because it's basically the same thing, but just, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. I know what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to show off the concept, but I don't think it's necessary. What do you all think in the chat? Yes or no on this one? Been off the last one? I think so too, right? Gav is no. Okay, so if you answered no, what is this then showing off that we haven't really seen, apart from these other way better presented ones, right? I'm curious. Because if I've seen all of this cool stuff, you know, and then the last thing is just like, oh, this does do nothing for me, you know? Like, this is, I know that he's trying to show off the concept, but this is not different than what's shown here, technically. If it was like a proper breakdown of like, this is my gun side view, and this is like, oh, I have like a rotating design here, this rotates, and this is driven by this, and like a full breakdown of what the design actually does, I think that would be more interesting. Yeah, wait, that's cool, right? Oh, Maksym, is that you? I think Maksym is in the chat at the moment. Showing off Fusion 360. Just put that in the description, right? Like you've done. That's more than enough. But yeah, this is cool though. I like this. I think that the same that we said before can apply to this gun, right? Like a little bit more material definition. Try to add variation into it as well. Like a little bit of a difference between paneling. Not every panel needs to be different, but it would be cool to maybe see that one part of this gun has been replaced at a certain point or something like that, right? And it has like a slightly different color. Or just like scratches of like use, right? Like if you hold it, probably going to be like a lot of scratches here because that's where like the hand is going to be gripping it. This is going to be sliding and like rotating all the time, so there's going to be like a bunch of scratches here. Top part of it is probably going to be venting of some sort, so I'm trying to think. There's probably going to be smudges or like, depends on what is vented there, right? If it's heat, paint might be peeling off. Could be a cool hint. And yeah, like a lot of dust gathering here as well, because it's all interior space. All these crevices where it's hard to reach and like hard to clean, probably dirty them up. Because this is, I'm thinking about like the logic of the world as well, right? This is a plasma cutter. So this is like a mechanics tool. So these things have seen wear and tear, and over the time, they probably get less and less taken care for, you know? Like it's, this will just get dirty, like really quick. We'll delete it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Ali. Like the work itself demonstrate that on its own, regardless of the screenshot fusion itself. Exactly. Like I said before, like this is awesome, right? Like the gun itself and like the way you constructed it and the way you thought about the design is great. This is just not doing anything. Let's move on. Let's have a look. We're going into some of the stylized stuff, and I have been taking my time a lot, so let's have a gander here. Low poly stylized PBR. You notice what I just did? This is a video. I don't even bother clicking on it. I know that this is like very rude and like very direct, but this is how like someone looking at your portfolio under like time duress or like has to look at multiple portfolios through a day is not gonna bother clicking on this. So make sure that it autoplays, right? Like the ones that you have with your newer props. Or else I'm afraid no one's gonna have a look at it. This is interesting. I think we're going back to the more older work, right? So the stuff that's on display here, the textures are, I would say like a little bit less interesting than the ones that I've seen currently. So I love that you sculpted like the pages as well. And sculpted all of that stuff. Oh, it's in Blender. That's cool. So this is where we're going into like stylized territory, right? And this is where the question comes up again, like, okay, what do you want to do, right? I'm gonna make an assumption if I don't know you and if I haven't talked to you or seen you before. I would say that this is older work, so you've kind of shifted from stylized into more sci-fi related stuff. You seem to be heavily like influenced by Star Citizen, by their workflows and possibly even their designs to a certain degree with like the injector. I mean, might be from other games as well. They have here. greeted by this fishy. This is cool. It's cute. I love this. It's a cool looking shape, making it into a panda. That works really well. It's not the most glamorous stuff, I know, but it's kind of nice, you know? And this was for an actual game as well. That's pretty cool. Yeah, nice. I like these though. Like, nice shapes. The presentation is kind of a bit on the more boring side, right? With just like the plain background. So you can probably do something a bit more interesting with it. I don't know what you did with the game. I don't know what other assets you had available, but maybe making like a little scene where you can show them off. It's always more interesting. Only diffuse map. That's cool. Yeah. Kind of going through like this older stuff like a bit quicker. Oh, never mind. This is last year. That's interesting. So, since... Okay, wait. Let me read through the chat before I ask you that question. That's why I asked, is it good to leave the stylized stuff? I leave it just there because it is what I'm actually doing on your actual work. Oh, okay. As proof, I'm actually working in game dev. Okay. That's interesting. Because that is a good point of having this on your portfolio, right? And the work looks decent as well. I know that it's not the most glamorous stuff, but it's definitely helpful to show that you can do low poly, work within restrictions, and work for a company, right? So that's definitely valuable. What I might do in that case is make it 100% clear that this is for a game. So how you can do that is maybe on the thumbnail. Let's have a look. Have like the logo somewhere here, you know? And do that on like every post. Oh, I don't think this was... That wasn't like a game thing, right? But these two definitely were. So it would be cool. It would be cool to do something like that so that you know, okay, this is my personal work, right? And then the other stuff is my professional work from within the company. Or, yes, like Lloyd is saying, put a professional tab on ArtStation so that they know it's professional work. That's what I do as well. But I think in your case, it's probably better to just have it as like that one overview, have all the images there, and just differentiate between them by adding the logo on top of it. And then they know, oh, this is for a game, cool. And then it changes the mindset of the person looking at it, right? It might not be the stuff that you want to do, but it's still a good showcase of what you can do, like within a production environment. So, like you said, definitely good to show that off. And also, hey Lloyd. Thanks for the good advice. Thanks for joining, buddy. So yeah, this is... Wait, hold on. No. Oh yeah, this is how I do it. So, when you go on my portfolio, like, I want people to look at my personal work first. So this is the active tab. But if you want to look at my professional work, it's hidden in like another tab, and that's where like my professional work is, right? But again, like in your case, I would say that it's probably better to keep it all up in like one chunk, because again, reducing friction, right? So have them all on like one page. I think that's the best option for you. Ali, stop it. You worked on that too. I still need to post like a lot of stuff, but I'm just too lazy. Yeah, I think we saw everything, right? Let me double check. Okay, cool. So that's the work. I know that this was pretty long already, but I'm gonna quickly go through some other stuff. Because a blog is always interesting to me. Because sometimes you can see what people are doing. That's not necessarily gonna end up to like a result that's gonna be finished at some point. Or get breakdowns or like dive into like the thoughts of what they were thinking at a certain point when they were making a progress. Like a gun, right? For example, this is great, right? So I can already see that you love like sharing some of the progress on this gun. That's cool. What this also shows is that you didn't finish this one. Right? Because this one isn't on your portfolio. So that's always also an interesting thing to do, right? It's not that this is gonna hurt you, right? But I'm more like curious, like what happened. Like I would in an interview, I would probably ask you a question like what happened with that gun, right? Like with this one on the left. And the answer to that can be like you probably said in this post, right? It was just an exercise. Latest concept, sci-fi gun, special guns, special perks of the gun. We'll describe in next post. Next post didn't happen, but yeah. That's during an interview. I would probably ask you like, oh, what happened with this gun? Why didn't you finish it? Right? And it might be like a multitude of reasons, but that would be like an interesting thing for me to know about. So we got an email here. It's good. Painter, nothing out of the ordinary here. It's pretty good. Yeah, so overall, I would say the setup we discussed is like reducing friction, right? Like make it as easy as possible for like a person that might want to hire you to get to your work the quickest. So I would probably say get rid of these tabs for now until you have more than 10 pieces or something like that, and just have it all on one page. Change the thumbnails for these two pieces, just to make sure that they're from a game, and then adjust some of the thumbnails here that they're really like eye-catching and like popping. And other than that, I'm really curious to see what you're gonna do next, Maksym. I know that you're working on something, but I'm not going to reveal it here. I don't want to probably call you out like that. I'm looking forward to it, though. It's going to be good. And thanks so much for sharing it as well. All right. Let's have a little break. Let's read through the chat before we dive into Nicolas's portfolio. Have a look through the chat. Scarding is asking a question in the thumbnail. Do you put the money shot or the other ones? What you want to put in the thumbnail is not necessarily the money shot. It depends on what it is. You want something that will intrigue the people to click on that particular piece, right? So what it can be, I'll give like a really weird example, right? You have a full environment, but you also have this really detailed like hero asset. It might be cool to just take a picture of that hero asset, and then once they click on that thumbnail, then they see that, wow, it's not only this really detailed hero asset, but it's also an environment that's like built around it. That's freaking awesome, you know? And that surprises people and catches them off guard. Instead of giving everything away, Yeah, it's. I don't like to do that because then there's no surprise or there's no like additional thing, like no additional emotion once they click it, right? It depends on what it is. Like if it's just a relatively simple prop, you got no choice, right? Just make the best looking presentation for it and just use it as a thumbnail. That's awesome, Maksym. Thank you so much. No worries, Gardang. Let's have a look if I missed another question. Eke? I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. Hello, first of all, thank you so much for doing these streams. It's more than helpful. No worries. Happy to help. I have a question. I graduated and have done my internship at a company for 6 months. What would be my title? Whatever you did at your internship. So, if that is, let's say if you've been making like assets to make it really simple, you become like a prop artist, right? If you've built environments, you become an environment artist. If you did texturing or materials, you become a material artist. However, I would say that whatever, how should I say this? Like, whatever displays your skills and your interests the best is what you put on your portfolio. Because that's why people come to your portfolio, right? They want to see what your interests are and what you're good at. And that's usually what keeps them interested and like look through your work. So I would put that on there. It's pronounced like AJ. Okay. Okay, so you specialize in environment art, but I'm unsure if I should call myself a junior or a graduate. Oh, I see. Okay. After my internship, because it was full-time and for a long time. I'll let you in on the secret. Graduate and junior are the same thing. It just depends on the location. For example, I was a graduate at Frontier, where at Ubisoft, if I would join them, I would be a junior. So for Frontier, like graduate just means junior in a way, because there's, at least not that I'm aware of, maybe I'm totally wrong, there's no additional step. So what I mean by that is once you graduate, you go into like an internship, like I did, for example. I'm an intern environment artist. And then once I get hired, I become a graduate. And then I became an intermediate, and then senior, and then whatever follows on that, right? So they're sort of the same. I know, like titles in the industry are freaking weird. I don't even get into like environment artist 1, environment artist 2, and all that stuff, because that seems to be like the new route that a lot of companies are going into. Oh, you were afraid that it would come across like titling yourself, and that was my concern. No, I don't think that's true. I think that generally only happens with people that start their own company straight out of high school, then call themselves art director or something like that. And then once you start looking through it, they only have like 1 year of experience working on their personal stuff, you know? That can be very deceptive. I would highly advise not to do that. It's fair to say that you ran your own company, but that doesn't mean that you should be expecting to become an art director at like another company, right? Oh yeah, good point. Amber Magbar is saying not all titles are equal. Different companies have different standards. Yep. So to add on to that, I was an intermediate at Frontier and I got offered a junior position at Ubisoft, for example. Just because that's where Ubisoft thought that I was in my current career. I mean, I ended up declining that and got like an intermediate position anyway, but yeah, it just shows you like the difference that different companies might have towards the amount of years that you have in the industry, or the what is it, like the quality of your craft, of your work, or your portfolio. Exactly. I was like, hell no. I think there was one more thing, right? Like, what should I do to get you to review my environment C? Mateus, yes, as Ben mentioned, I think you can become a member of the YouTube channel or go through Patreon and then sign up through one of the tiers. And every Wednesday we have Work in Progress Wednesday, where I go through everyone's scene in the community, whoever puts it up. So if you want to get like, it's almost like a free weekly review, that would be the way to do it. So excited to share my portfolio for the next stream as well if I catch it. Hell yeah! Looking forward to it. And thanks so much for the great question. All right. It's time to dive in the next one. Nicolas. Oh, let's have a look. Let's move over my tablet a little bit. Thanks for all the great questions so far, people. If you have any other questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat. And if I forget or I skip your question, feel free to ask it again, because I might get distracted. Oh, you know what? I'll just share the link, you know? Or else Lloyd is going to get mad at me because I'm not sharing or like promoting our own stuff too much. Let me just quickly do that. I'll just make it real easy for all of you. So, yeah, if you wanna get weekly reviews like I talked about before, feel free to follow that link. You have to have Discord access though. Like the lower tier only gives you access to like a PDF with like 250 pages of like tips, which is also good, but you don't get access to our cool Discord, you know, and with all like the freebies and other stuff on top of it. All right, Nicolas, let's have a look. Let's start with the title first. 3D environment artist, cool. So I know that I need to focus on that. Available for work. That's great. And then we have, environment art, props, and then some materials. That's awesome. So this is all. What is portfolio? Wait. Okay, I'm jumping in straight away because I'm wondering myself, why is this not portfolio? This looks good though. I don't know why this is not portfolio worthy, you know? I like this stuff. Underbelly, nice attention to detail. Wireframe's looking good. You can probably like optimize like a couple of things. But it's good that you added the wireframe, you know? Because that's the stuff that I want to see. All the good stuff. Okay, let's take a step back though. So 3D environment artist, it's looking good. Let's dive into the first one. Oh wait, maybe we should have a look at the overall presentation. I think, yeah, honestly, the presentation's pretty good. The one thing that I'm gonna say about this one is that the shadows feel like super contrasted. So I don't know if I'm too critical on this, but it makes it feel like it's not well lit, and it's already like pushing my expectations down just by a little bit. And just because like the shadows are so dark, you know? So maybe, yeah, doing some like extra bounce light for the thumbnail would be interesting. Because if you have direct sun on like lots of light surfaces, the light is gonna go bouncing around like crazy. So I want to see that like warm, I don't know what place this is like, but like Tuscany kind of vibe, you know? Like if you go to like a southern country where it's like always hot, always sunny, kind of what I want to feel from that thumbnail. Put me in vacation mode immediately. All right, so that being said, let's have a look here. That's cool. Like that. Lots of little details to look at, you know? Lots of story happening in this one. When they leave. When they leave takes place in the early morning after Alex's surprise congratulatory party for getting into the university of choice. Okay. The project was a lot of fun, a lot of troubleshooting as I learned new techniques. To my arsenal. Along the development of the project, I underwent... Oh, with Ryan Beno. Okay, cool. It's awesome. His help was instrumental to the development of the scene. Goals of the project was to improve lighting, set dressing, and learn to use trim sheets. Show me the ultimate trim technique. Yeah, it's a good one. Disclosing that the trees are a part of the Unreal Engine marketplace. That's awesome too. Yeah, this is good. Like all the information here is super useful, right? Like just this disclaimers of like, this is what I use from this place, this is what I use from that place, like making sure that if I were to look at your environment, that I'm not getting any false sense of like misinterpretation, right? Because sometimes that happens where you look at a scene that is like really detailed, has like lots of variety. So for example, in this one, we're not only dealing with like a high density of props, but also foliage in the background and all that stuff. And the base assumption looking at an art piece is always that everything's going to be made by yourself, right? That's always the assumption that I go into when I see someone's work. And then I try to like look at what's written in the description to see what they didn't make. Something to keep in mind. So if you ever use something from like a marketplace or anything like that, just put it in the description. Just to make it sure that you're not going into an interview where they're like, oh, tell me how you made the foliage. And you're just like, well, I took that from the marketplace. That's not a nice position to be in. Yeah, this is looking really nice though. Oh, okay, interesting. Progress GIFs. I'm a sucker for them. I think a lot of other people are. It's just a really nice way of quickly showing you like what artistic decisions that you made and like creative creative thinking, you know? For example, the first couple of frames were really telling in this one. Where from when you condensed it to like straight looking at the window, I would assume that's when you started doing the mentorship with Ryan Benno. Because it pushes everything in, it makes it super focused, like super concise. You can focus like on like less stuff to do and making it feel like more impactful, right? And it makes it feel more realistic, like relatable, because this is probably what a lot of kitchens look like, right? Especially in small apartments. Or like not small apartments, but like, I don't know, most standard homes, you know? That's cool. Small little thing here, turn off the grid next time. I know it's small stuff, but presentation, right? Where are we at? So yeah, turn off the grid. I'm trying to do something more than just the gray default texture from UE4, right? Try to do something more interesting. You probably have like a tileable line around that you can use, you know? Yeah, do something a little bit more interesting with that. It's the little things that help a lot, right? It's the attention to detail, it's the consistency of a portfolio that probably makes people jump from like, oh, this is cool work, to like, oh, we need to hire this person in a lot of cases. Because it's not only showing that you can do the work, but it's also that you're meticulous in your attention to detail and that you're focused on making it the best that you can make it. Yeah, this is cool. Marmoset presentation. Showing off some maps. That's cool. The map breakdown is really good. Showing that you use atlases. Even though... Okay. I'm gonna get nitpicky. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing here, right? These black... Those black things, like those black backgrounds, that's like the magnet backing, right? I'm making an assumption here, but I think it is. If that is correct, just stack the UVs. Just make it once. There's no need to have like unique backings for all of them. Like even with like a little bit of stretching and like pulling, no one's gonna look at the backs of like magnets, you know? So that's like a tiny little thing that just came to me. The rest of it was looking good though. Like all these little maps. The pins look really nice and detailed. Like slight inconsistency in like pixel density here, where I can read this, but I can't really read the letter, right? Which is like way bigger, and I kind of want to read it. Teesside University, Norwich. I like all these black. I am curious. I have to quickly check what you did with that in your scene. Can't... So what I was looking at just now is... again, details, right? Because the scene itself is so good, it's so packed with details. That it's really interesting to look at, But I'm skipping a whole bunch of basic stuff because you show that you clearly know what you're doing with that. But the thing that I'm alluding to is this is a psychopath's mansion, right? Because all these pins are freaking straight. Like, no one would do that. I mean, maybe some people will, but definitely psychopaths. So have like a little orientation and like a little random rotation is like a really quick trick to make things seem natural and organic. Where, oh, we went to this place, boop, just put it on the fridge, right? I'm not gonna be like And this can apply to like magnets on a fridge. It can also apply to like stickers on whatever. It can also like I'm currently working on like a medieval scene. If those people are constructing wooden benches, nothing is straight on that wooden bench. Like every piece of geometry is like every slightly off angle. It makes everything look so much more organic and so much more man-made, right? Like those little inconsistencies, those little offsets, like they help so much. Like I can't even describe it. Or like emphasize how much they help. Okay, so we've got some trims in action. I like how detailed this went though. Like already. Next time, Nicholas, I think Windows Movie Maker or like the embedded Windows tool allows you to trim videos. Just do that really quick. It looks a bit unprofessional seeing like the NVIDIA overlay stuff happening. Small stuff, right? This is cool though. Just you're switching between two texture sets? Is that what's happening? What is that? Trim B normal? Yeah, so you probably have like two trims, or you have like a set of trims like on the same UV and you can offset them or something like that. Oh, UV trim example. Oh, of course, you're using the ultimate trim technique, right? So you can swap all the maps out because they all map onto the same sort of grid. If you're using it in that way. That's cool though. I like this scene. A little GIF going back and forth might be nicer. Yeah. Is that the same scene I saw ages ago? Yes. I'm still working on that, Ali. Thanks for bringing it up. No, I'm loving it though. I'm having so much fun. Handbrake is another good tool that you can use for like quick video edits. Floor material. Yeah, you have a floor material here, like in your presentation up here. You could probably use that, right? Especially for the floor. It's going to be a bit busy, but you can find a way to make it look more interesting, right? I mean, you've done such a great job on the environment itself. I'm sure you can make like a piece of floor look interesting. That's awesome. Okay, let's go back. Yeah, maybe if we look at this thumbnail, we can kind of think about how to make it more interesting, right? Maybe picking up maybe like a look at the fridge or something like that from all the different pins. That might be cool. Or like maybe there's something that hints to a more personal story that you can kind of include within the thumbnail. So it get people clicking on that, and then they click on it and it zooms out and it's the whole scene. That would be pretty cool. That might be a thumbnail idea. Italian Courtyard. 12 weeks of hard work inspired by a photo of an Italian courtyard. All the voices is a combination of UE4, Quixel, and textures.com. The rest is modeled in textures myself. This is from 3 years ago already. Okay. I'll let you in on a secret. Like, this is the stuff that I love to do, right? Is if this was you applying and we were sitting in like an interview, I'm always really curious what happened in the time span between this piece and the next one. Like, and I don't really, it's not like a fault that you took a break or that you had to do whatever, right? I'm just really curious what happened in those 2 years, because it can also mean that you did like a lot of experimentation, that you did like a whole bunch of other scenes that didn't work out. But it would kind of be interesting to talk about like your artistic journey if we were like face to face and we were talking about it. Yeah, I just want to mention that because that's like a thing that I kind of love to dive into. Apart from personal reasons, right? Like if it's purely personal, I don't care. I'm just thinking about like what you were doing with that time, like on an artistic front. Let's have a quick look. So from when was this then? Last year. Okay. Last year. Okay, so these two, and then the first one that we looked at, they're all kind of from the same year. And then this is older as well. Okay. It's good to know. Because, I mean, I'm looking at this, and you can definitely tell the difference, you know, between this, which is amazing, and then we go to this, where you can kind of see that it's a little bit more outdated, you know. Texturing is not that good. And there's a lot of attention to detail that's happening in the previous one that's not happening in this current one. So for example, I'll point out some stuff. Actually, before I point it out, let's have a quick look if you did it in the other one. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the thing that I was going to point out is like some sort of windowsill, right? Like these are just like cubes that are just like straight inset into a wall, but that's not how a window works. You know, there's always something indicating like a little windowsill or something like that to give some structure to the window frame itself. Same happens with the door here, right? So you got the interior of the door, or like it's not a door, but it's what are they called? Blinds? Window blinds? I'm not sure actually. But yeah, you got these blinds. Let's call them blinds for now. But the frame is missing, right? Or at least like a bigger attachment on the outside concrete, where you normally, like you have there, you have like this section leads to the door, right? And then this is like the section that's bolted into the wall. And then this can, hold on, let me kind of use blue. So then this section can like rotate. Yeah, like a shutter. Exactly. So then this section can rotate. It's either like built into like a frame that's around the door, or it's built like drilled straight into the rock, right? But I'm not really seeing. And I know that this might feel like I'm pointing out like really ridiculous details, but that's what an environment is, honestly. Like if you really think about it, like all those details are gonna make it like feel alive and feel lived in. Couple more examples. The rain pipe is not attached to anything, so normally you have like these binders like keeping it to the wall, right? And then also the rain pipe is probably not straight. Think about what we mentioned before, where you probably want to have like a little bit of like an organic offset, where it's not just like a straight pipe going down, but it's actually one that has seen some stuff, you know? And then it opens up into a hole here and then goes into like, I don't know, like a drain or something like that. It's honestly the same that you're doing for the cables, right? Like the cables feel like nice and organic. You can kind of feel, I mean, it's not there, but you can kind of feel that they're like fastened in certain places, and then there's like certain angles that are just like, oh, we'll just let the cable do its own thing. Yeah, attention to detail. I'm not gonna keep going into this, but it's super important, right? And again, just looking at the comparison between this piece and the other one, like you've learned so much already that you really paid attention to more of it in this one. So just keep on doing that. Then we got little props over here. I honestly like this though. This is nice. Like I like the lighting as well because it's hitting like all the angles that you really want to show off, right? Where you have like a nice roughness variation. Astronaut, hey, I have a question. Yes, feel free to ask a question. Like about, yeah, anything you might have. Go ahead. That's cool. The little personal touches on the backside, right? Like this is, yeah, this from Dylan Abernathy's. But this stuff, like on the backside, helps so much, you know? Yeah, the roughness variation between it, like the roughness variation between like the little stickers and like the little permanent pen markings, you know, like all the details here look super nice. And I like what you're doing with the presentation here. It just feels it feels like it needs, oh yeah, I don't know, like to me it feels like it needs just a little bit more, like a little bit like a ground texture to keep it grounded. But I mean, in the overall scope of what you're showing off here, that's like a small thing because the lighting is nice, the quality of the prop is top notch, the attention to detail again is nice, right? Like you have these like nice little touches that you do, like this, the pen marking, like little stickers that are, they're not normal stickers put on there, right? Like they've seen some age. Like it's nice. I like that one a lot. This is cool. Made entirely in Substance Designer. That's awesome. This came out great. I love the presentation of it as well, where it's not just evenly lit or like a material sphere. It's something different. Yeah, that's nice. Nice amount of roughness variation in it as well. That's crazy. I would be curious to see this in an environment, but this is really nice. I like this. That's awesome. All right, this one was a little bit quicker. I still have this question. Why do you have a separate one for your portfolio? Like, honestly, if I were to make your portfolio, like if your portfolio tab, right? If I were to make it, I would honestly cut out this one. Because the rest of it looks really nice into like a high quality degree. I think this one is just pulling the quality down at the moment. Because the rest of it is all like equal bar. Like this one's nice. This one is also nice. Then we got this one, which is well presented, shows that you got substance designer skills. This is a great one. And then you got the full environment that shows that you can actually implement, like, what you're basically saying with your environment is that, hey, I can do one-to-one stuff really great, right? But I can also take all of this and then throw it all into a scene and still make it look good, right? And not lose like the sum of its parts. So I think honestly, if you cut this one out, your portfolio is probably stronger for it. Ooh, we got some blog posts as well. Let me catch up with the chat for a bit. Scott is saying props in the newest scene are looking ace. I agree. Yeah, 100%. Like that's basically what we talked about at the end, right? Is that all that stuff is looking really good. Just have to be brutal with yourself, you know, and say like, hey, look, I know that I spent like a lot of time on this one scene, but it's time for it to just be hidden from the public, you know? Just show off like the best stuff on your portfolio. Hey, Antonio. How's it going? Is that an underground magnet? Oh no. We can't talk about underground stuff because then Scott gets triggered. Tim, let's go! Hey, see ya! Oh, Lloyd, that's actually a great way of putting it, man. Sometimes you just got to cut the stuff that you've outgrown. I like that. Because that's definitely true, right? Astronaut is asking, I have an animation degree and no job, also no portfolio or any good work. Where should I start on how to build a good portfolio? You want to be an environment artist. Okay. An animation degree, so I assume you know some modeling, right? So if we're starting there, just start with building props. Don't complicate yourself with all the more difficult workflows that we usually use in games. Just make sure that you have the knowledge to make one prop look really good with a texture that's just one-to-one, like fully unique. So what that basically means is doing something like this, right? Taking like a very small prop and making it look as good as you can. And try to take something really simple. Like these cassettes, right? They're not complex things, but it's a great way of getting you into modeling, texturing, presenting it into Engine, or in Marmoset if you wanted to. So you can just keep it like really simple. And once you really know how to like bake the information down, texture it with good looking textures, that's where you can expand your knowledge and look into other workflows. So that would be my recommendation. Start small, stick to the very basics of it, and then expand outwards to other techniques like trim sheets would be a good one if you want to be an environment artist. and potentially reusing of titleable textures with blending shaders. I don't want to give too much away because it's already going into too much technicality, right? Just keep it simple with just like props for now. Start by making things you're really interested in. Oh yeah, that's actually a good point. That's a great addition to this, right? It doesn't need to be like a cassette. It just needs to be something that's small enough and is really something that you want to make. That's a great point. I started by making rubbish spaceship. I did my fair share of rubbish spaceships as well. Oh, you know what? I mean, we're here, right? So let's have a look at my hidden portfolio. If we're talking about... where is it? This one. Because we were talking about sci-fi corridors, right? So I made one too at a certain point. Can I... Ugh. Preview. Oh, okay. Here we go. It's basically the same thing that you did, Maksym. I mean, in setup, right? It's just really simple modular pieces with like slight variations on each and every one of them, and just make like a straight corridor out of it. It just doesn't look great. I mean, on top of that, mine was like... I mean, I'm not saying that yours didn't look great, but like I'm talking about my one in this case. Like it's relatively simple to make just like a straight corridor. And then if you're really bad at lighting, like me, then it can look even worse. But hey, gotta start somewhere, you know? Real time in Unreal Engine 4. 8 years ago. Thank you for your insight, sir. I always picked huge projects and never finished. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's that's been the demise of a lot of my personal work as well. I started doing like huge projects before I knew how to manage scope. And yeah, then I never finished it, right? So yeah, that would be definitely my recommendation. Keep it small, keep it simple, start with the basics. Once you understand the basics, you can start building on top of it. What you kind of need to see it as, like, you're building a house, right? You're not gonna build a house by starting with the walls first. You want to build like a solid foundation so that you know that whatever you build on top of it is gonna stand. And that's what you're doing if you're doing it like with really simple like the really simple stuff that we talked about, right? That allows you to build like a foundation that you can then build additional stuff on top of. 6 projects ongoing. Ali, what are you doing to yourself? Is this you currently? Or is this you talking about like your student days? Let me have a quick look through the chat. See if we missed some stuff. Oh no, I don't think so. Right now. Also recommend find stuff which has a lot of references for the prop so you can get an idea on how it looks and how to recreate it. Don't choose something which you can't find references from the beginning. Yep, that's a great point, Antonio. Yeah, or like just... Yeah, great point. Just use references, right? And like... Yeah, because that... God, I forgot that there was a time that I didn't use references and try to make it work because I was thinking about it, you know? And then once you start looking up references, it's like, oh, I didn't know that did that. Hi, I'm in high school and confused about work in the industry as an artist because I've heard a lot of people say that it's awful working in the industry, and I want to hear your opinion. I'm sorry if I'm rude. No, I don't think you're rude. I think it's justified to ask that question. Um, I don't think it's hard to say, right? Because it's easy to find articles on like shitty working conditions. And it also heavily depends on where in the world you are. So I have a very European view on working conditions, right? And we don't really have it that bad. But I also realize that I'm kind of like the outlier in a lot of cases. For example, I'll talk about my own career for a little bit, right? So, how long was I in? Like seven-ish years. I worked at two companies. So I started out at Frontier Developments, and then I made my way to Ubisoft Berlin, and now I'm just working for myself for Beyond Extend. But when I was in the industry, I've only done overtime once, and that was because a lot of the team was staying because they just wanted to finish some stuff up, and there was gonna be like pizza or something, right? So that was like the only time that I actually did like overtime or something like that. Yeah, so and for the rest of it, awful working in it? I don't think so, you know? I always had I mean, I don't want to say always, because in game development is a tricky thing, you know? I don't want to sugarcoat it or like make it sound like more rose tinted than it actually is. Like it is difficult. Like it is difficult to manage like a number of people working on the same creative project where everyone wants to have like the same creative input, and you can't, right? At a certain point there's going to be deadlines that have to be put in place, and there have to be restrictions on it. So there have been moments where I was um unmotivated because of some of the actions that happened within the studio, right? But now that I think back of it, in hindsight, usually they were either for the benefit of me, because I'll give an example where without going into too much detail, where I was being really engaged as like an artist, right? So I was going really into detail and wanted to spend more time working on it, but I couldn't. We just had a deadline. So that's when I got pulled off the project because there literally was a deadline. We couldn't work on it anymore. And that is not a great feeling because you worked on it. That's your baby, but that's still at a point you need to just stop working on it, right? Because the thing needs to be done. Yeah, and I think like Ali's saying as well, it can be stressful, but I've not really that many stressful situations, you know? Like I've always seen them as like challenges to overcome. And then getting together with a team and like solving them together was always like really fun, because the people in the games industry, like, they're the best, you know? It's kind of sounds cheesy to say it, but like everyone's there, everyone's trying to put in like their best creative effort, and you can see that everyone's so willing and like open to help. I've had nothing but great experiences in the game industry, even though I left, right? So I mean, I didn't leave for those reasons. I just left because I wanted to do something that was personal to me. But yeah, there are things in the industry that need to be changed for sure, and that's where all the articles come from as well, right? And it doesn't matter internally or externally. Like people agree that those things must change, because honestly, from mean, I was, how should I say this? I was just a developer, you know? Like, basically all we want to do is make good games. Like, we just want to have that creative input and make good games, and it sucks to deal with, like, shitty situations from any scale. In my years of UB, this is Admiral Macbar speaking in the chat. So in my years of UB, I crunched for 1 week and that sucked. Something fierce, but that was it. Blame the Canadians. Blame the Canadians. Love that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that sucks, right? But yeah, like, that doesn't compare. I mean, look, like, I'm not trying to make a comparison, right? But probably the stories that other people have heard, for example, in this case, Yuoni is probably heard like a ton of stories where people had to crunch for like months and months, and yeah, like the horror stories, right? I honestly want to say something with confidence, but stuff like that is going to happen in the future. But I think what's going to happen is that it's going to happen less because people are being more open about the impact of it and why it shouldn't happen in the first place. So here's to hoping for the future. Astronaut, sometimes I feel lazy and no motivation to work or start to procrastinate. How do I solve this problem? Yep. Build the best advice that I can give is build a habit. It takes time. You have to be consistent with it, but tell yourself to do just 30 days, like Lloyd is saying. And once you build up those 30 days, 30 minutes a day, and then once you have a habit of doing something for like 30 minutes a day, you can then start adding more time onto it. You know, that's how I did my entire career, basically. And also one other thing to keep in mind is oh, I got some spammers going in. Wait, hold on, let me just freaking yeet those out. Boink. Okay, done. And I think another important question to ask yourself is, in like a very personal but to the core question is this really what you want to do, right? But to give yourself a proper answer to that question is you need to have done it for a set amount of time before you can actually honestly give an answer to yourself. Like, you can't just do it for like a week and then ask yourself the question of like, oh, is this really what I wanted to do? Like, no, you have to do it for like a length of time, like a couple of months, you know, like really model, like from like day in, well, not day in, day out, but at least start building that habit, you know? And after a while, like, either you're like, I hate this, and I hate this with a passion, like no matter what mood I'm in, I will always hate this. Maybe this is not for you, but it's very personal. But yeah, like Lloyd said, start building a habit. That's the most important thing. And once you got that habit going, you can then build up on top of it. And to add on to that, another recommendation that I can say about this is make sure that you tell other people around yourself. So I don't know, like, it's about keeping yourself accountable, right? So you can do this in like a lot of ways, but you can do it with like an ArtStation blog, for example. You can say like, hey guys, this is my first blog post. What I'm gonna do is every week, Thursday on 8 p.m, I'm gonna be putting out a blog post. and then keep yourself to it. Like, really be ruthless about like every week, Thursday, 8 o'clock, I'm gonna put out like a blog post. No matter how much progress I made, no matter how much I did, I'm gonna be putting out a blog post. Make projects you enjoy too. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's really important. I think that's also important why you need to keep stuff clean. Small in the beginning. Is in the beginning, I'm trying to think back at my own like student days as well, right? I mean, it sounds like I'm freaking 60 years old. Not that long ago. But I would be like, oh, I like this. And then like a week later, I would be like, oh, cool, I like this now. And I would be just like distracted by like a lot of stuff. So work into that, right? Like don't try to, like, you need to be in line basically. So if you know that you're going to be switching from like week on, week off, or like let's say maybe 2 weeks, just pick like really small project. It's like, cool, I have a week. Let's say I have a week of full-time work. What am I gonna do with that? I'm really into medieval stuff. Cool, I'll make a medieval axe. You know? And just do that. If it's not done within a week, you could like stretch it out a little bit and like push it a little bit and just make it like fully completed and then start on the next thing. All those decades ago. Yeah, I'm not that old yet. I may look like it, but... So look. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's difficult sometimes, right? Sometimes you just have to be like... Especially with building up, like a habit. Like, sometimes it's literally like, hey, I don't want to do this. And that habit is going to say like, cool, but only 30 minutes. And usually what's going to happen is that you're going to be sitting down, you're opening Unreal or whatever you're going to do. After those 30 minutes, you find that you're still working because your brain has switched into the mode of like, okay, we're going to do something. And then you'll work for an hour, you know. But if you really don't feel like it, you can just work for half an hour and then just do whatever you want. But then you still did that half an hour a day, which means that you still worked on improving your own skill set for half an hour a day, which is invaluable, right? Because that half an hour a day scales up day by day, week by week, month by month. So it's really invaluable. Just start small, right? Oh yeah, that's a great point too. I've been very confused for months. Sorry to hear that, but I'm sure that you'll figure it out. It's hard sometimes, you know, because it's very personal. Like making art, like it's a very personal thing because you kind of have to figure out who and what you wanna do to then pour that into your art. So it's not easy. It takes time. And yeah, Ali was saying, I found myself that playing games motivated me a lot too. I found myself inspired by the art in games and it pushed me to hit those goals. Yeah, man. Like I've been playing Stray recently and it's just such a pretty game. You know? Like it's a very basic game, but it's pretty. You know, like it's a real eye candy to look at. I'm just like, man, some goals, you know? And that's what I'm working towards. Oh, yeah. And talking about goals and like working towards and all that stuff, you gotta realize that you're never done. Like as an artist, you're never ever done, because there's always going to be someone better than you, right? Because even if you think about like the person that you look up to, they have a person they look up to, right? So like the chain never ends. Like, oh, sorry to skip your question there, Eric. Let's have a look. I'm currently dealing with old tech. Oh no. Making it hard to learn in engine. What skills can I show off in a portfolio that will make up for not having that hands-on experience? What skills can I show off in a portfolio that make up for not having that hands-on experience? Wait, so are you working in games currently then? Because anything that you make, no matter what engine or whatever technology, is kind of showing off that you can do the workflow, right? I mean, I'm gonna let you in on a secret. Sometimes in the industry, we work with alt tech too. Definitely not a secret there. I was about to say the same thing. In Blender, trying to build game-ready assets. Yeah. But that's, I mean, then you're doing a good job of like working towards a portfolio, no? Like if you're already trying to build game-ready assets, then that's the thing you're working to. I mean, I don't really understand why it wouldn't be showing off on your portfolio. Because I mean, I'm making game-ready assets in Blender too, so. I know people still using that old software for baking. Can't remember the name, but it's old. Xnormal. That's the one you're talking about. Yeah. The States and Europe seem to be a lot different in working conditions. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to say too much about the States because I don't know anything about that, so. I mean, I know the same as anyone on the internet, right? Like, I know that a lot of people are standing up for worker protection rights at the moment, especially at Blizzard, which is a very good thing. Sounds like it's about time. But yeah, that's about all I know. X normal for baking is old. Yep. Thanks. That's what I used in the beginning. Thanks, guys. X normal, and then Knalled. I used that for a bit. And then there was a period where we made like, well, we baked our normals in X normal, then put them into Quixel Endu, and then added like normal layers on top of it. Hardest thing for me is arriving home from work and after work working on personal projects. Yeah, I think what Admiral Magbar is saying there is a good one, right? Like, why do you need to work on personal projects? I know that this sounds like a very stupid question, but like sometimes there's no need to be working on it, right? But if you're missing like a creative output, or if you're trying to build up a portfolio for the next job, that's when it becomes more and more important for you to do stuff on the side again, right? But yeah, yeah. I mean, I want to say that I don't know. This is not I don't know how to say this. Like, I don't want to sound cocky when I say this, but I never had that because I've always been in working mode. And I don't want to sell this off as like being a good thing too, right? Don't get me wrong, because I have an issue with not working. So, but to give you an answer to your question, the hardest thing for me is arriving home from work and after that work on personal projects. The same thing that we talked about before can be applied here. Just half an hour a day. Or like maybe even in the weekends. Like an hour in the weekend. You know, you can build your own kind of structure and you just need to regularly follow it to build like a a habit out of it. Jumping off for a bit as I'm starving to death. If you're still streaming in a bit, I'll be back. In the meantime, it's been good to chat. Cheers, Timothy. Yeah, man, thanks for popping in. I'll be doing this more frequently, but I do need to pop off in a bit too, because this was supposed to be like a fairly short portfolio review session, but I've honestly missed streaming. So I need to do this more. Next time for my personal work though. That's what I need to do. You know what, people? I'm just gonna leave this here. I think this was like a very good first stream to get back into it. I appreciate you all being here. I thank you so much. This has been freaking awesome to just kick off like streaming again. So definitely appreciate it all. Let me just share some stuff, you know. So I left the industry like a couple of months ago, but I've been working for the past couple of years to create a space where environment artists can feel where they can grow and learn, you know. So if you're interested in joining that, feel free to check out patreon.com at Beyond Extent. I attached a link in the description and like in the chat as well. Feel free to check that out. And you know what? Like, you'll probably see me in the future doing some more personal work streams. Getting more personal work done on stream would be a good thing. I would freaking love to do that, you know. Build like cool medieval props. Yeah. But yeah, thanks so much for being here all. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Wow, that's a thick boy.